Ladies and gentlemen, we are live once again with the Kart Rider Drift League. My name is William Cho, joined by Peter once again. We're back together. Of course, we let Ryan State handle the days where there are no ace matches, and we're back to wish for more ace matches today as we are lining up 2 more team matches and a solo match. My first time actually getting to cast the solo matches now.
Yeah, solo match is definitely a really exciting one. We have so much different players coming in, constantly facing off against each other for the gain of points, and it's really exciting. I recommend it to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I am looking forward to it today. Of course, I mean, most of the players kind of taking part in the team match in some way, form, or another. There are a few that have only entered through the solo match, but we'll get to that later. Of course, here's an overview of the team matches, because that's what we're going to kick things off with today.
So we have 3 professional teams and 5 amateur teams who made it here through the qualifiers, and they will be facing off against each other on the main stage in a round-robin format for a chance to move on to the postseason, where the top 4 teams have 3 matches prepared for them to fight it off for the grand prize money of 40 million won to the champion, as well as money according to second, third, fourth, and so on.
Yeah, you'll still get something for your efforts, even if you're not able to top in the top spot. But of course, it is going to be a pretty huge difference. Now, looking at the standings so far, I mean, no big surprise, right? Liv Sandbox and Kwangdong Freaks. I mean, not only because they're 2 of the pro teams, but also just their rosters. A lot of people expect them to be at the top of the list here for Kart Rider Drift. Now, the question is, who will eventually stand up to them out of the remaining 6 teams?
That is definitely a good question, because they do seem pretty evenly matched in the wins. But if you take a look at the round wins, Liv Sandbox is ahead by 5 matches. So I do feel like it is a bit Sandbox favored right now, but that's why we have so many different matches to see these variables coming in.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, no one's completely immortal. We'll see when and how and if Sandbox eventually topples. Now, today it's going to be a battle for some of the teams that are remaining on the lower side or middle side of the standings so far. ROX Esports going up against Planet in our Match 10. And then Match 11 of the round-robin team match. It's going to be FINALEe-sports versus R. FINALEe doesn't have a single win yet in terms of match score.
Definitely looking to take that win for themselves today, because if they go down 0-3, that would be a disaster. It would be really hard for them to recover to try to get that position in top 4. Of course, there's a group team match as well, which we are really looking forward to.
Yeah, of course, the solo match will happen after the team matches. It's going to be 8 people trying to get into the round of 16. But kicking off tonight, we're going to introduce our first team to the stage. It's going to be none other than ROX Esports.
ROX, they have such a strong lineup. I love this team. We have Jung, Vega, Spell, Dutsy, and Plansy, and every single player on this team can definitely pull their weight.
Yeah, I mean, Jung surely showing why he was such a legend, in that alternate universe of Kart Rider over at KRPL, and now proving that he's ready to race once again with Kart Rider Drift here for the KDL. He's proving his worth and weight for ROX Esports.
He is proving it by being that steady runner for his team, always leading the pack. I love seeing this guy on the tracks, but of course we have Planet going to face off against ROX today, and this is also a pretty good lineup. We have Scarlet, MINSIK, Mari, Acidfly, and Lens. Some names are definitely do stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's important to remember here between these 2 teams is that both of them, they faced a loss in their first matchup, and then they bounced right back with a win in their second match. So now only one of these teams will be able to continue that streak for the W's on the scoreboard.
Not only that, they are also both teams in 4th place and 5th place right now. So this match today is going to really alter their rankings, and I'm sure both teams came super prepared for the match.
Yeah, let's take a closer look at the rosters here. We'll introduce, the players and kind of their records so far, and little choice words for each other. First up, it's going to be ROX Esports, and we talked about Jung kind of as the highlight star here, but the other players, none of them are meant to be ignored here.
For sure, you just take a look at their average stats. Their average rank for speed mode is 5th place. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
Dutsy.
Yeah, Dutsy is in the top 5. Yeah, I mean, ranking always somewhere near the top 3 in the races here for Team Speed. So really proving his worth as one of the speed racers. And, are you ready to feel your limit? The Korean, we talked about this during the rehearsal. It's more like, are you ready to hit that brick wall or kind of hit your limit when you're facing us, in this matchup?
Yeah, when you fight a player and you just feel like they're just out-gapping it each time, you don't know how you're going to bait this player. That's pretty much what they are trying to do today, ROX. Show Planet that ROX is the better team.
Yeah, I mean, ROX, of course, also one of the 3 pro teams with that infrastructure. So there's a lot of reputation on the line as well. Now, we keep mentioning it, the individual players, there's always going to be someone to note on either side. And, you know, that is the case for Planet. We mentioned some of these players earlier as well. And one player that stood out to me was, you know, AcidFly doing what he can. Even though he doesn't have as much reputation in the kart rider universe, he's starting to really show up as a player who's constantly trying to vie for a top spot in the efforts he puts in for his team.
Not only that, of course, they had a really fantastic block success rate, but you take a look at their words, my goodness.
Yeah, that's pretty savage. We'll go you down with the blade of lens. Not sure if it's the actual lens that turns into a blade or if it's, you know, just the blade that lens is holding, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. No blades in item mode in Kart Rider, so it's got to be something else.
Yeah, I mean, you would assume, you know, maybe we'll crush you to death with our cart, but blades coming in, it's definitely spicing things up.
Ooh, and we're going to kick things off with Planet's round 1 pick, which is going to be World Tour New York Rally. Now, with the bans and picks, they do alternate, so, you know, it's not just all bans up front. They're going to each ban one, and then they go through their picks, or pick one and then ban, and then they'll keep alternating. So we start with World Tour New York, then we go to Zigzag Timberland, Extreme Stadium, and, you know, again, whether you like these maps or not, it kind of depends on, do you like the kind of tight, tough tracks as they're traditionally called here in Korea for Kart Rider, or do you like kind of the field maps, which are a little bit wider, they usually have 2 or more laps, things like that?
Well, I know one thing for sure so far, Will, and that is that Wolf doesn't like these narrow tracks, and neither do I. I also like the wider tracks.
Oh, you guys are cowards, I tell you.
Yeah, I mean,
you're just gonna take it?
I suck at this game. I'll admit it. I can't drift for the life of me. I need that, you know, forgivance.
I mean, let's be honest, especially for a lot of fans in the West now, I know some people, you've been OG fans of Kart Rider, which is great to see, but Kart Rider Drift, this is a good chance for a lot of new players to try to get into the game and the esport, which is absolutely thrilling. And you know, on the surface, it seems like very simple, but it is a tough game to get into. And of course, we're getting ready right away for our team speed match between ROX, Esports, and Planet. We're going to head right into track number 1, which is World Tour New York Rally. And they're off as they go through, of course, just a single lap here, so it doesn't loop around. So every twist and turn, I mean, it's really going to be about positioning towards the end. And of course, I mean, it's not a problem for the pros, but really keeping track of how much distance you have left until the final couple turns here in New York.
MINSIK right now leading the pack for Planet, but he is followed by 3 members of ROX. So ROX with that 2-3-4 position, definitely going to look at trying to keep it. Of course, MINSIK right now, he is trying to get overtaken by Jong, and he does get.
Yeah, eventually Jong takes over, but the big thing is MINSIK always trying to stay just a bit ahead in terms of number of boosts. Now, a little bit of extra collision there. MINSIK's going to lose a little bit more speed than he wanted, and now Dutzy actually up front keeping on par with MINSIK in terms of boosts, and he also has his teammates to block for him, so this is a pretty stable spot for ROX so far.
1, 2, 3 is such a deadly combination. You cannot allow that if you're Planet. Dutzy is speeding off so far ahead. Jung and Spell just blocking out Scarlet and AcidFly. They are really unable to catch up to Dutzy right now.
Yeah, AcidFly was trying to do what he could with that draft on these wider turns to get a full drift while he's charging up that gauge, but while he couldn't do it, it's going to be Scarlet who's trying to catch up. Now, MINSIK has to come for support. The most important thing is Planet, they're still holding on to this midfield of ranks, so if only 1 or 2 players can break into the top 2 and break that 1-2 finish from ROX, things could still change.
For sure, 1-2, you cannot allow that. 2-3-4, you know, you still have a fighting chance, but we are entering the final 300 meters. Jung leading out right now, Mari behind.
Jung still has that boost as well. He doesn't even really need to use it, and it's actually just going to be a straight 1-2 finish for ROX Esports. A very comfortable finish here in track number 1.
That was really, really comfortable. You can for sure say that again. Just 9 points in the lead. ROX looked pretty untouchable.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, right, they started off strong as well. You know, MINSIK, sure, he had the top spot a little bit in the beginning, but right at the beginning of the course on any track, everyone's so bunched up that it's really a matter of how are you using your boost, you know, and are you really charging up the gauges more so than just holding on to that first spot. And at the end of the day, ROX, they still had 2-3 players right behind MINSIK, and they all overtook him by the end.
Yeah, Jung came in at an astounding first place finish, and we gotta give props to Jung because this guy is always so consistent, and it just makes you wonder, how is he so good at being a runner? Why is no one able to stop this guy? It has to be the teamwork, right? The sweepers.
Yeah, there's gotta be more going on than just his individual skills, but of course he has been famed as one of the legends at KRPL as well, so to see if he can replicate that success here at KDL, of course, he's off to a good start with that so far, and we are getting ready for track 2. Now, I believe this was the track in their last match where Jung was in like 7th place or something, and he just shoots forward on the 2nd lap and enters into the fight for the top 3. So interested to see if he replicates that again.
I mean, the track was picked by ROX themselves, so you would assume that, of course, Jung does feel really comfortable in that track as we get ready to enter round number 2 between ROX and Planet. It will be held in Forest Zigzag Timberland. Off for round number 2.
Yep, and Dutzy just starting off by trying to block off some other members of Planet while he's able to still build up some of the charge with his own cutting. And he's going to be relatively successful at it. He still stays at the front of the pack, but again, we always mention on these tight tracks, you're always going to be relatively packed even towards the end of the 2nd lap. So it's really a matter of boost management and then positioning for the final couple draft opportunities.
Boost managements are going well so far as we see a congestion between the players. This is pretty common in this track. It happens a lot, but however, Dutzy is at the front, and when you have such a narrow track, you can't let them get the lead early on because it could be really hard to catch up to them later on.
Yeah, now Dutzy not able to break free though, so Azafly and Scarlet, they will be constantly battling for him. Now earlier we saw John when he was on screen just constantly sneaking in those double drifts as well to make sure his boost management stays on par. Now as we go into some of these hairpins, a lot of collisions happening, but Dutzy is doing what he can to block Scarlet from gaining speed.
Dutzy, this guy is the master of blocking right now. However, Scarlet does find the lead a tiny bit, but Dutzy once again holding on. These two are having a rivalry match right now.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is not only is he blocking them from gaining too much speed, but he's also denying them from getting any opportune drafts or things like that, and of course also blocking any sort of optimal line from them. So he's still set up ROX for potential success, as Spell is now right behind him. Jung as well. Jung, once again, he does this in the 2nd lap. He's trying to compete for the top spot.
Jung, the man that we have to keep our eyes on. He's definitely going to be looking at going for the top 2 because you do not want to give that 1-2 position over to Planet. They are 7 points ahead of ROX right now. Dutzy trying to do what he can to overtake Mari.
Oh, Dutzy with a great setup. He saves up both boosts so that they can charge up once again for a double team boost, and he's going to use both of them and instantly charge back up, as well as Mari now trying to overtake with his own boost, but Dutzy is still 1 boost ahead. Mari now just trying to keep up. They both have team boosts. Mari still has 1 left.
Here comes Azafly and Spell to try to help out their top 1-2 players. However, Mari is the one still in the lead. Azafly also feeling comfortable blocking out Spell.
Dutzy trying to position for an overtaker, but Mari, he's greeting so hard, and he's almost colliding, but he's still keeping the lead. He's actually done such a great play from blocking Dutzy, and he's going to break free, and Mari goes into first, and it's actually going to be a 1-2 finish as well.
Another 9-point victory for Planet. It's been the 9-point victory for ROX last time, so both teams throwing the punches at each other, making sure they feel the skills of the players.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give it to Mari this time. He could tell that Dutzy really wanted to get, overtake him on the inner line on those last couple hairpins, and he was actually greeting so hard to the point where he was nearly colliding with the walls just to protect himself from being overtaken on these boosts and, potentially even opening up a draft positioning. And because of that, Dutzy also has to greet, eventually loses speed on an extra collision from behind, and it's going to be Mari who shoots forward.
Mari and Azafly, this was such a strong deal. They are the runner and the speed ace of the Team Planet, so they did their roles really, really well. And of course, Scarlet, he was in the back, but he kind of likes to block people, so I also think Scarlet deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, I mean, again, sometimes it's a matter of making sure your team can hold on to some of those middle positions where even if you lose, the top spot or maybe even second or third spot, you'll be able to still get that point win. But yeah, you see it here at the end. I mean, Mari's just making sure they're able to keep up with Dutzy and just battle with him for that top spot. So much of both of them positioning against each other.
Yeah, I mean, they were just drafting against each other all the time, looking for the angle to overtake, and ultimately, it was Mari coming in at that first place finish, and I'm really excited to see what Mari will bring us more.
Yeah, well, we'll see. This is going to be Planet's pick in round 3. This is tied 1-1, and we're going to Glacier Extreme Stadium. And the race begins, tied 1-1 in this speed match between ROX and Planet. Both of them obviously would ideally want to get the speed win and tie it or into an item win, so it's a 2-0 victory.
ROX looking absolutely strong right now in the standings. 1, 2, 5, 6. You cannot allow that 1-2 because that is a victory condition.
Yeah, and this top spot is actually, the top 4, they're starting to break away from the rest of the pack. As we enter these last couple turns, we'll see if it's enough for the later 4 to join in. Now, Spell going to get knocked around just a bit against that wall. He's quickly going to catch back up, though. I mean, there's still an opportune time because on these hairpins, everyone's going to lose a little bit of speed. It's more about boost management if you can keep that up so that you can overtake them near the end.
Speaking of hairpins, this is it right here. Players are usually really good at going through these 90-degree angles. As we see every single player make it across just fine. However, you look at Jung and Spell, they are leading by such a far distance.
Yeah, I mean, Jung, you gotta imagine that he's kind of off in his own world for now. There is a couple more opportunities now, not here because you can actually take that straightaway in between the curves so that you can maintain your speed. But as we get towards, the end part of this hill section, you'll have one more opportunity, but as if like he's greeting against Spell as well, so he can't actually gain enough speed to catch up to Jung.
Yeah, Asifly, he can't just go for rank 1 at this point. He needs to buy time for Mari and Scarlet to catch up. So you can see him trying to block out Spell, making sure that there's no 1-2 formation for ROX. They've pretty much given up on Jung at this point. Yeah, and we saw it in the lower right corner of the screen as well. Dutzy was doing what he could to block the middle section of Planet. He was not successful. So now if Planet can keep that second spot and Mari can somehow catch up, they might have a chance, but it seems like it's going to be just too far ahead, which means Asifly, he's going to have to overtake Jung. Asifly, what can you show us?
Oh, he tried to knock Spell off and just try to get his teammates up front, but it's not going to work out. And the victory goes over to ROX to lead 2-1 in the speed match.
I really like that attempt of a tackle. It reminds me of a football game. Heroic, but this time it didn't work.
Yeah, again, sometimes you have to have that comms of just say, hey, let's go for the Hail Mary play, right? There's no way I'm getting first, right? Jung's already off. There's no way I'm going to catch up to him on the single last jump. So you make the play that is going to get you the win. Unfortunately, it was not successful. What more can you do?
Yeah, I mean, this time ROX did take that score, but it is not over for Planet because it is only 2-1. And so far, Planet has made this race really close between the two teams. So I really hope they're able to find a way to come back, especially with their combo in Asifly, Mari. We know these guys are fantastic runners.
Yeah, and here's the thing for ROX. I mean, ideally, they win this with a 3-1 because people have been praising them ever since they put up a fight 2-3 against Guangdong Freaks, who was kind of expected to be one of the stronger team speed, teams here in the KDL. So if they end up going 2-2 against Planet, this might spell trouble for them. Of course, on the other side, maybe it's praise for Planet.
For sure. I mean, Jung, he's definitely such a reliable player for ROX. Even if ROX does drop the speed mode match, as long as they get to the ace mode, that's where Jung really shines. He's been the absolute GOAT there.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they can keep it up as we go to ROX's next pick. It's going to be round number 4 on Desert Barrows Pass.
Off we go into round number 4. We have Spell leading the pack for ROX. Of course, Asifly, the trustworthy member for Planet, also in the front.
Yeah, everyone just using their initial boost so they can start to tie in all of their drifts here around that little zigzag. And Jung just instantly gaining the 2 double team boosts so that, even though he's in 8th place, I don't think he's going to be too worried again. I mean, this is one of those where there is that jump near the end here. If you drift correctly, you should be able to get a better line and catch up.
Yeah, we see right now ROX, they have the 3-4 formation. They don't want to give that 1-2 over to Planet. So we have Dutzy trying to do some catch up however he can. And he does manage to get ahead of Scarlet. That's pretty big for ROX.
Now this one, again, a relatively wider track in certain sections, and of course a 3-lapper, which means each lap is going to be much shorter than the tracks we've seen prior. So even if you fall behind, if you're able to just maybe somehow block that middle section and gain a couple more boost gauges for your team, it should be successful. Jong just correctly maneuvering around that collision. He's going to be able to stay in the top 4. ROX is positioning in a way where they always have an option to win.
ROX looking really good here. However, Jong, you know, he did get blocked out by MINSIK just now. He's trying to find the angle to try to overtake MINSIK with a fantastic blocks.
MINSIK so good. He positions in a way where Jong will have to take the greedier turn. Jong actually tries to fight him. He's going to lose out of that battle. Spell does what he can to try to jump forward, but Acid Fly is just way too far ahead. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to round 5 as Planet ties us up 2-2.
Now that's what you call a 1-2 punch coming out of Acid Fly and MINSIK. The absolute dominance, the victory condition. Man, Planet, they are making things so hype right now.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, again, we're even going to round 5, you know, that's impressive. And then on top of that, we have to remember ROX, they haven't looked so good in their item matches so far. So Planet, I mean, this might be a good setup for them if they can potentially get a, you know, somewhat upset win against a pro team like ROX Esports.
Yeah, I mean, Spell and Planzy are the 2 hybrid players for ROX, so they are both good at item mode and speed, but so far, as you said, that's just what they're known for, but the results have shown otherwise. So ROX definitely wants to end it here on the speed mode on a positive note if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're feeling very desperate for it. Just to look at the records, ROX has only won 1 round of item mode so far in their 2 matches in the team match. So it's going to be an uphill battle. Now, again, here, MINSIK knows that Jung has to greed for the most inner line in that corner. He actually cuts it in a way that Jung, the only way he's getting out of there is hitting the wall and then resetting. So great play from MINSIK, and, you know, Jung doing what he can, but it's not successful.
Yeah, I mean, Jung, this is the MVP so far in ROX, we can for sure say that. And Planet was able to lock out the MVP, and I mean, if you can do that, you may as well take the win as we get ready to enter our track number 5, Mine Winding Slopes.
And we're off as we enter one of, if not the toughest tracks here in Kart Rider Drift. Of course, just a single lap, that already tells you it's going to be a tough track. And this one is just full of narrow corridors all through and through.
Our players are doing whatever they can to gather the boost gauge without hitting the wall. But of course, it is a tall task right now for ROX. Planet with the 1-2-3 Acid Fly leading the pack once again.
Yeah, we'll see how they maneuver around these jumps here as well. It's going to be important to not lose so much speed. Dutzy actually using Scarlet to his benefit and making sure he stays on course to maintain a fight for the top. He actually has to lose a lot of speed there just to make way and not collide.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely lost a lot of momentum, but not colliding was also good. So he's still maintaining that 4th place position. But now Planet with the 1-3, they are looking dominant.
Yeah, and of course, these pros, they're all dodging the pipes just fine. Jong actually maneuvering a little bit around, taking a detour just so he can overtake, and Acid Fly is going to hit the corner, trying to make space against Jong. It's not going to be successful. Jong is getting away with 1st place. Currently, ROX up by 1 point.
It is Scarlet versus Jong right now, 1v1, but Scarlet falls behind. Look at Jong speeding off. Now it's Dutzy versus Acid Fly and Scarlet.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Dutzy holds this position, they should be okay. And I don't think there's going to be any upset here as ROX is going to take it 21-18 in a 3-2 scoreline in the speed match against Planet.
Jong, in round number 4, he kind of choked there, you know. His attempt of overtaking failed, and it ended up damaging the rankings of ROX, but this time coming in as the MVP, locking in that 1st place finish. That was so big.
Yeah, I mean, a great race from Jong. And the fact that he's able to just stay ahead. And we saw it in that ace match he played in their last match as well. And once you give him an inch, he will take a mile, right? And he'll just run off with it. He won't give you any more opportunities to overtake him. So that's a player where you just want to make sure he never gets into 1st place, and that's not easy to do.
Yeah, and on top of that, you don't want to make it a 1v1, but that's what ended up happening, unfortunately, because the members of Planet simply couldn't keep up, as you mentioned, coming into those hairpin turns. when you have to adjust to make sure that you don't crash into the wall, that does lead to a lot of speed being lost.
Yeah, of course, we saw some of those maneuvers. Of course, that was a section where also you have to make that jump if you want to just keep up in pure distance. So Dutzy was making that correct call as well. Now we are going to see a little roster change here. It's going to be Plansy coming in as this racer for item mode, and Vega being subbed out. Of course, Plansy, the dedicated item ace here for ROX Esports.
Yeah, Vega is the sweeper for ROX, so we will see if other players can fulfill that role well. I mean, I do know that definitely Spell has been preferring to stay in that middle, so I'm excited to see what he can bring us. And we have another racer change for Planet. It will be Lens in and Mari out.
Yeah, they talked about how they're going to cut down ROX with the Blade of Lens, so if there's any time to do it, it's going to be when he's playing here in the item mode, and they're going to need it. I mean, that way they can at least take it to an ace match and see how it goes.
Yep, and we have a fan saying that Spell put a spell today on the win for ROX, I believe. Yep, ROX.
Yeah, just putting a spell so that they can win. We'll see if it works. I mean, now we'll find out if Spell is an actual magician or not, right? Or wizard, I guess. But this is going to be the track list, bans, and picks coming out. Kicking off with Mine Magma Cavern from ROX, and then going on to Glacier Polar Halfpipe.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that, of course, World Tour maps are commonly getting banned out. Pharaoh's Pass, I've seen that one a lot too. But Icebreaker Pass is going to be played out, and I do like this track, so I'm really excited to see what Planet can show us there.
Yeah, we actually got to take a look at World Tour London Night in yesterday's team match, one of the matches. It was played in the item mode with Liv Sandbox, and you could just tell that was, I think, the moment where a lot of us watching were just like, okay, this is the team to beat, because the way they were maneuvering that item mode was just as impressive as their speed mode, which is already just such high reputation, right?
Yeah, definitely a lot of reputation there, as we have so many fans cheering on our teams as we get ready to enter item mode, track number 1, Mine Magma Cavern.
And we're off for the first item mode track, and of course it's just going to be everyone trying to get items. We're actually looking at Acid Fly not able to secure any for himself. I think he might have missed, yeah, he going again with no items. It's not going to be too detrimental because we're only on the first lap, but he's going to have to either choose to kind of hang back just to get items or not.
Yeah, I mean, first lap, this is where we see my favorite item, the banana. I want to see them slip on those. It's very fun, you know, it's a 360 turn, and then kind of go off the pace.
Yeah, that's a nice little sound effect. I like it. And the fact that, again, a lot of the first couple areas, and even we see it right here on screen, these are a little bit narrower portions of the track compared to a lot of the item mode tracks we have here in KDL. So things like the banana, things like the water bomb, they are going to be a bit more effective than they usually are.
And water bombs are really fun. When you toss it, sometimes you can hit 0, sometimes you can hit 4 players. It's like the craziest thing ever if you make it work.
Yeah, I mean, if you can land a great one. Yeah, like this was a good one, of course, up front. It was going to be the missile that hits as well. And things like that as well, as you continue to watch the item mode, tying things in with like the barricade or the missile, and then the water bomb, or the water wisp into the water bomb. So even if they have a shield, they're going to be hit by at least one of those items. It's going to be very important to coordinate.
I'm going to confess to you here, Will, barricades actually do give me a lot of problems. For some reason, when it comes up, I always hit the center.
I mean, sometimes, especially if it's timed right, it can even get the best of players. Now, Scarlet having a little fun by just, you know, warming up his keyboard by swapping those items between his boost and his magnet. Now, he's going to try to keep these to the end, and the question is going to become, do I use these to overtake into first place, or do I use them to draw aggro? Zhong is just going to rotate out that banana in favor of a shield, and the EMP being used by his teammates as well. Zhong just trying to position himself for first place.
Dutzy also there trying to keep out Scarlet. It's really close right now. Dutzy leading at that first place. Scarlet with the magnet though. Oh my goodness.
So ROX actually positions in a way where Zhong actually gives up first place because he has a magnet. So the idea is I'll pull back Scarlet while we have Dutzy try to push forward. But it's going to be Scarlet who just ignores all that because he has a magnet on top of his boost and he's able to just dash forward into the finish line and slingshot in before Zhong can catch up.
Now that's what I call a outplay in Kart Rider Drift. Beautifully played by Scarlet there. Perhaps one of the best usage of magnets that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and you just look at the stat lines as well. I mean, Scarlet making so many passes just to stay relevant. Of course, again, it is item mode where, you know, it's not all about how you've been performing the entire laps. Of course, it's just a matter of getting one of your players through that finish line at the end. But the fact that he was not only the one who was constantly making passes against the other players and being relevant, but he also had some great items, a success rate and items saved up for that finish line. So we'll see if he can replicate that as we move forward in the later tracks.
We can take a look at the replay of what happened. Joe, you know, he just slowed down in the aim.
Yeah, he purposely aims for it. I mean, you don't see that every day, just great usage. Again, this was one of those tracks where, because it's so narrow, we've seen several successes here of the water bombs and Scarlet using that magnet to boost forward slingshot and then continuous boost in a way where Jung can't catch up. I mean, when you're lined up like that, you kind of have to predict what the opponents have, right, to overtake them.
Yeah, prediction, you always have to be a pace above your opponent. That definitely pays off big time as we get ready for track number 2, Glacier Polar Halfpipe. And the round 2 race begins.
Yep, just picking up our first items, of course, just going to try to cycle through those, and now this is where we'll start to get an idea, you know, in the beginning stages of each item mode track of what is this team's idea, right? What is kind of the finishing wombo combo that they're gunning for, and that might have to change as you go. Now, Polar Halfpipe, another one of those tracks where the water bombs can be somewhat damaging.
Yeah, and usually on this map, you go a lot faster if you get on top portion of the track. However, it was only Jung taking that. A lot of players here opting for the items instead of speed.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the first couple of tracks, I mean, if you can just get those items, try to cycle through, especially if you don't have the ones that you would want for lap 2 or 3, it's going to be much more beneficial. Because again, it's not speed mode. You're not going to be able to build up your boost through those drift gauges, so you are still going to be able to catch up in one way, form, or another.
I'm really enjoying these water bombs today. I don't know if it's just today, but I feel like I'm seeing them land so many times today on multiple people.
I will be honest, I mean, part of it is definitely the tracks, but I think the other thing is I don't think we've seen as many Angels today, so the team is just trying to have to maneuver around the fact that they don't have this get-out-of-jail-free card in the bank. I mean, you can even see it now. Sure, they've all saved up their magnets, but they don't have the Angels to guarantee that whoever's up front will be able to keep that lead. Scarlet with a nice little banana on the turn as well.
Sick banana coming out as we get ready to move on into lap number 3. This is where the top 3 or top 4 is going to really matter. We have 2 players each for Planet and ROX.
Okay, Scarlet just dodging around it. He does have 2 shields as well. Now, there is a UFO in hand for Spell. No EMP yet, so he's going to use that right away. Scarlet's going to get pulled back. Now, Scarlet was never meant to be the first place here for Acidfly, or for Planet. It was Acidfly who has the magnet.
Right, as we see Jung, he did not make it up there, so now it's all up to Dutzy and Lens to try to go for that first place finish for the team, trying to block each other out, and MINSIK comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, what they get here as their second item was going to be so crucial. Now a boost in hand along with the magnet as well. Planet trying to just use all of these to slingshot forward, and they will get it as Scarlet once again enters in first place.
First place with 2, 3, 4, 5 going over to ROX. If Scarlet wasn't there, that was ROX's game.
Yeah, I mean, if Scarlet wasn't able to keep that up. But again, in that last set of items, what you got was so crucial. If you were able to get boosts on top of the magnet, you could still try to just stay in the lead. Whereas if you're only stuck with the magnet, you actually have to give up that first place to then slingshot back forward. So I'm sure lots of thoughts going through all of the players' minds. But at the end of the day, it's actually going to be Scarlet, who was the only player from Planet who got near the front right at the last second.
I don't know about you, Will, but I feel like ROX is starting to really feel the blade of Lens here because they are up 2-0 right now over ROX, a team that we were worried for because their item mode performance wasn't that great.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly a weakness of ROX, right? I don't think there's any doubt that they have individually skilled players, especially in speed mode. Obviously, you know, they've even built a 5-man roster to make sure they have an item ace, but it's not coming to fruition yet, and if there's any time to prove that it works, it's going to be here as they're down 0-2 in this item mode team match against Planet as we get into Mine, Mother, Load. And we're off. I just noticed MINSIK using the speed reader card. Of course, we don't see that in the speed mode too much, but we've seen a couple players use it here in item mode. And it's nice to just see a little bit more variance here in the car bodies as well.
For sure, I love variance. We love it all. As we see a bunch of EMP waves for that 1-2. Not a very useful item. It is too conditional.
Yeah, I mean, it's very niche. And here's the thing. Because the UFOs are also fairly niche, the UFOs are never going to be a strong win condition for your opponents. So I think it's okay to just try to cycle through it as you're coming up against another extra set of items here. A nice missile is actually going to keep Smell at bay, but he's just going to retaliate with the Wisp. Now, we'll see this a lot, right? The missiles on the Wisps will be used a lot in the first 2 laps just to keep everyone still bunched up in a way where no one can get too far ahead. And as I say that, Dutzy is rocketing forward.
Speaking of rocketing forward, he is barely visible on the map. Only Scarlet being able to keep up right now. The rest of the members definitely doing some catch-up now. Jung and Acid Fly pressing on the acceleration pedal.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is, Dutzy and Scarlet, they feel fairly comfortable that this could turn into a 1v1. Jung's actually going to move forward, so this way, Jung can actually help draw aggro, but Acid Fly is going to take that top track. He's actually even going to bring up the magnet. He's trying to block off Dutzy just to buy time, but he actually also falls behind to set up for the UFO as well.
A lot of back and forth already on the 2nd lap. I'm excited to see how much more action we'll have on the 3rd lap at this point, because this is looking really crazy.
Yeah, and there was that banana dropped on the narrow portion of that last section as well, so we'll see if that comes into play now. This time, much more of a traditional setup from both teams, Angels and Magnets being saved up here towards the end, and it's going to matter as we have teams from, or players from both teams bunched up here in the top 4 positions.
We have Scarlet leading out right now, Acid Fly, ooh, beautiful Angel blocking out that water bomb.
Oh, and Jung's able to use a boost to get up front. This is going to allow him and Dutzy to stay so much far forward, and Jung still has a magnet as well. He's going to use this to make sure that no one passes over Dutzy. Can he use it right now?
Oh no, Scarlet!
No, Scarlet's actually just getting forward. 2 magnets is still not enough. Oh, Jung! It is enough. It's not enough to pull him back, but it is enough to pull Jung forward as he slingshots over the jump.
Mr. Jung, where did you come from? He came from the heavens or something.
Yeah, I mean, he straight up did, Peter. I agree. And what a good setup. I thought, actually, with the boost as well, we were going to see Planet and we're going to see Scarlet specifically finish once again in 1st place. I thought it was not going to be enough range for Jung to slingshot forward, but off of the jump, he's able to maintain just a higher speed, and he enters, I mean, literally 0.1 seconds before.
Yeah, fantastic choice of line by Jung there, giving his team that much-needed win. They are still down 2-1, so a lot of pressure for ROX, but actually Jung looks very comfortable.
He looks very confident, and honestly, if I'm ROX Esports, I'm starting to think, like, how much more do we have to pay this guy, because he's winning all the speed matches for us, and he's winning the item matches for us.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the biggest hybrid. I mean, like, what can we say as the best hybrid player? Like
the Giga Hybrid.
Oh my, I like that one.
The Giga Hybrid player of Kart Rider
That's
Drift.
his nickname now.
That's his nickname. I mean, he won the ace match last time as well. I mean, he's the all-round player that you would want on a roster like this.
Yeah, and we have a fan coming in from Busan to cheer on ROX, and we all know how far Busan is because it's on the complete other side of Korea.
Yeah, complete other end of the peninsula here. Now ROX, they're keeping their hopes alive of a potential 2-0 as we head into Glacier Icebreaker Pass.
Here we go into round number 4. We have 3 laps on this map.
Yeah, and I'm actually curious on Planet picking this track, as it is a fairly simple track. I mean, as most item modes go, but this is also very wide, where a lot of the water bombs aren't going to do much good, things like that. So, you know, as the team who might have been favored in this matchup against ROX, I'm curious as to why they picked this up. But we'll see what their setup is towards the later laps to see what they had in mind.
You know, Scarlet had a setup, he had a double banana, and it made me kind of excited for a second, but unfortunately he got rid of that real fast, as we see a lot more magnets and boosters coming into play for both teams.
Yeah, of course there is this tunnel at the end, and even with the magnets, there is a way where you could potentially just body blind the person that's trying to magnet in front of you, or ahead of you rather. So I'm curious to see what Planet's idea is here. Now the EMP just going to be cycled out for Banana, which I'm sure Scarlet will use soon enough as well. Yep, he's just going to cycle that out. I mean, he's not getting the items he wants, right? He's still getting that UFO. He's just going to use that, drop down, make sure to keep Dutzy in check. My eyes are on Scarlet because he's been making the big plays here for Planet.
Yeah, Scarlet definitely always a player that's been leading the pack, but there's Jung right behind him, and that's got to put some pressure on Scarlet because now you need to make sure you're focused. We saw what happened last time. You take your eyes off Jung for 1 second, and he comes speeding.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Jung has a magnet, but Plansy has too, so either of them can stay behind to help kind of combat the potential members of Planet overtaking them. So they were okay trading places there as Jung got UFO'd. He's going to get UFO'd once again. Now this puts 3 members of Planet, which means they can start to try to draw aggro for each other to draw out these magnets.
Yeah, Len's doing that right now, trying to draw aggro from Planet, but that banana actually came in huge, and Scarlet getting dropped out as well. Now Planet, or Plan Z, has a clear field looking for the angle on Lens.
Yeah, now Plansy, he's going to actually, we're going to see an EMP come out. Another UFO, though. Planet stacking these UFOs, and Lens is going to stay up front, even with the magnet. He should be able to body block just enough, and he is going to enter in first place, blocking out Plansy, and that means, Peter, because State isn't here, we go to an ace match.
Aha! We are definitely fans of ace matches.
Yes.
So is State, maybe even more than us, but so far, we're hogging it, and honestly, I'm down to keep it that way.
Yeah, I'd like to thank State for his sacrifice of staying home today so that we can watch more ace matches, because who doesn't like a good ace match?
Thank you, State, for blessing us today. We are super excited, stoked.
Yeah, well, I am curious, you know, who's going to come out swinging here for either team. I mean, Jung obviously proving his worth last time. I mean, he darted far, far forward to a point where there was just no hope of catching up. Now against Ding last time it was, and now I'm curious to see if he comes out again. And of course, on the side of Planet, who should be the one taking this? Of course, it's also going to come down to which track has been selected as well.
Yeah, I mean, we see the teams discussing the strategies definitely right now, trying to figure out who is the most comfortable player to come out for the ace mode, representing their whole entire team, their results off of just one match from this player. It's a lot of pressure.
All right, well, we see the teams in discussion on both sides, and of course, the stage will soon show us what the track is going to be. But before that, a little bit of a review here for that last track here on the item mode. Scarlet just trying to body block even though he hits the banana there. And Lens, I mean, you see that. He bumps right at the end as well, just to make sure that no one's overtaking him as he gets magneted behind.
Yeah, sometimes you just stop accelerating for a second to check your rear mirror and make sure that nobody can catch up to you, because if you just bump them a little bit, that boop might be what gets you the rank 1.
And the track is going to be Desert Pharaoh's Pass. Now, what's interesting to me is that we've already seen this track between these two teams just today. It was played in round 4. It was ROX's selection, and actually Planet ends up winning that. Now, of course, that wasn't a team setting where you have the team boost. You have people, you know, to sweep for you and block for you and things like that. Now, this is, of course, going to be a 1v1.
Yeah, 1v1, all about the skills, and we do see a really long lane without any curves. So it's going to be a lot about, you know, the cutting. Wow.
Okay, and we're going to see Acidfly come out as the ace here for Planet. Now, Acidfly is also playing in the solo matches later today, so if he can win this, that's going to be a great warm-up and just great ego boost for him as he gets prepped for solo matches.
For sure, the momentum boost is definitely a huge factor in esports, and I'm sure that our players, Jung and Acidfly, they both feel ready to take on this ace mode because they are known for being great runners as we get ready to enter Desert Pharaoh's Pass.
And we're off. Acidfly versus Jung. Now, last time, Jung showed such dominance in the ace match. We'll see if he can replicate it. I don't think it's going to be as easy because this is a fairly simpler track with 3 laps. There should be many opportunities to overtake each other.
Yeah, and Jung is a player that won the recent ace match by allowing literally 0 drafts. So we'll see if he can keep that up today again. When he gets a lead, he doesn't let it go.
Yeah, right there. We saw Jung playing to try to block Acidfly from getting the inner course. He's actually going to hug the wall a little bit too close, and he's going to fall behind. But again, I mean, this is a track where you should be able to overtake. Now, here's the thing. Acidfly is constantly one boost ahead, or just slightly, right? His gauge is always topping off just a bit before Jung. So Jung is actually going to have to greed a little bit more of his drift gauge to try to catch up, and he's doing that right now with a lot of his cuts.
Yeah, he's cutting right now for the maximum gauge boost, and he is catching up. It's working so far because he is not too far behind Acid Flight.
Oh, yeah, an even closer line there on the corner as well. Jung, he knows he's now in position to place himself in a good spot in this third lap. He's even close enough to get that draft there as they're going through for the final lap. Now, you could see Acid Fly was feeling the pressure on the last couple turns. We'll see if Jung can put the pressure on again.
Jung definitely needs to put it on and make Acid Fly nervous to take even more greedier lines. We see players trading right now. Jung coming in super close, and he gets that.
Oh, he almost does, but Acid Fly's hugging the wall still while not losing his own drifts. And it looks like Acid Fly can he finish in form. Jung actually moves forward. Acid Fly, he loses speed on the last drift, trying to block Jung. And it's going to be Jung using that to his advantage. He now has 2 ace match victories under his belt in the KDL.
Jung was known exactly for this in KRPL. One of the best, if not the best, ace mode players, and he's proving himself right now, even in the KDL. Man.
Yeah, I mean, his nickname was the ace match finisher, and boy, we're seeing that right now. The fact that he's always paying attention to that one last opportunity. We saw him, trying to take the chances he could in the, right before the jump there on that last lap. But when that didn't work, he said, okay, I still have one more shot. And he puts the pressure on to the point where Acid Fly has to play a little bit more defense. And Jung says, thank you very much, I'll pass you right now.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because we were talking about how Jung needs to apply the psychological damage.
Oh, Acid Fly. I mean, you got to feel for the guy because he now has to play a solos match later today. And here's the thing is that he felt like he could win, and he could have, right? I mean, if he had actually made a tighter drift there instead of trying to, focus on Jung potentially taking the outer line, he might have even just been bumped forward. I mean, I think the other concern there was on that last jump, maybe being bumped a little bit out. And so he tries to, he's actually trying to block against Jung there, but he therefore loses speed, off of his drift, whereas Jung actually doesn't bump straight into him. He just kind of scrapes him and is able to keep his speed. And I mean, but that's the control Jung has. I mean, that's why against a player like him, I mean, Asphalt, you did what you could, but maybe, you're going to review it and say, maybe I should have just played my optimal, race there at the end.
Yeah, and that's what's great about these matches. You get practice not only off stage, even on stage. You get to constantly learn about new factors. But today, it is ROX taking that victory over Planet. It was a pretty close match going all the way down to set 3.
Yeah, and ROX, they now continue a win streak with 2 on the board. Planet, they get knocked back down as they reset their wins here. Only 1 win and then 2 losses. Now, here's the thing. ROX, they look great, right? Their speed matches are generally pretty good, although kind of close. And then they have someone like Jung who's reliable for these ace matches. But the thing is you don't always want to have to go to the ace match. You got to brush up on the items as well.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it like it is. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they've only won 2 tracks of item mode so far, right? And they've lost 9.
Oh, my.
Okay, yeah, they're 2-9 in item tracks. So I think a little bit more planning, a little bit more practice there, and they could become a super team for sure.
But what if, Will? What if the strategy is actually that they know they're going to win speed because they're all speed demons? Item mode, screw that, because Jung is our god. I can see that angle. Yeah,
but what if Jung wakes up one day with a stomachache? What are you gonna do?
No.
Like, what are you gonna do? You never know what's gonna happen. And here's the thing: there's always other players coming up. I mean, we'll even see it today in the solo matches where it's a lot of relatively newer players in terms of solo mode, and some of them could suddenly become these demons, right? These stars that say, oh, it's not even against 7 other players, it's just 1. Oh, I can win against this guy. So again, Jung's great. He's a legend in KRPL. I think he's trying to replicate that career here in the KDL, but not the thing you want to rely on. Not to say that Jung's unreliable, but you don't want to have to rely on that.
Yeah, that is definitely a good point because last time they took a defeat against Guangdong Freaks. Although Guangdong Freaks is such a great team right now and they're looking pretty much only second to Live Sandbox, you still don't want to have such an exploitable weakness, I would say. Definitely item mode. You can't just be giving that up every time. And Planet, I also want to give some shout out to them because I feel like they were a amateur team with a little bit of a question mark on their head as to how they will really perform. And I feel like so far in the preseason, they're definitely impressing the fans right now.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, if you're able to go 2-3 in the team speed mode against ROX Esports, again, a team that was built around these players that have reputation in the other other universes of Kart Rider. I mean, you're doing quite well for yourself, but we're in the preseason, right? So if they can take this time to learn and grow, I mean, who knows how these players will look as we enter the regular season later this year. Now, the other thing about ROX Esports is, not just to talk about Jung and the ace matches, but the thing is also their speed matches, they've lost 2-3 against Guangdong Freaks, and then today they won 3-2 against Planet. Sure, they had a 3-0 in the middle there, but even the speed matches, it's not like they're completely dominant, right? So I think there's still that kind of missing 2% here for ROX Esports.
Well, that missing 2% is definitely why they are not sitting at rank number 1 right now. So I hope they definitely figure it out. We still haven't found the kryptonite to Live Sandbox yet so far. Maybe it could be the Live Sandbox versus Guangdong that does it, or it could be another rookie team. It's all just a mystery box right now, and I'm having a lot of fun opening it piece by piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, again, that's why Sandbox looks so scary, is everyone kind of expected them to be, dominant once again in terms of speed mode, especially with the roster they have. But the fact that they're still able to keep up just as much, if not better, in the item mode compared to some of these teams that are kind of just vying for the item mode to push it to the ace match, right? I mean, watching that match yesterday from Sandbox, the way they had understood how these item mode tracks play is very incredible. I mean, if you're a hardcore Kart Rider fan, I absolutely recommend going back and watching that, because kind of the way they set up some of their items and boosts, especially on some of those tracks like London Night, was very impressive to see.
Yeah, it's so interesting how you can swap up the strategy basically on the spot based on what your team has the composition of items for. Sometimes it's the nitrous that does it. You just suddenly accelerate and you're in the first place. Magnet, we've seen that just today. I wonder when we're going to see like a water bomb right before the finish line. And it
actually hits, yeah. I mean, it could happen. It could happen. Obviously, most teams, they'll try to keep their shields and angels for the last seconds, but sometimes maybe you just didn't get them, right? Or, maybe you weren't able to save it because they were forcing it out with all these other items, and that's another strategy as well. So I'm curious to see. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the nitrous, the boost, because that's actually how a Sandbox wins that item mode London Night yesterday, is they save that boost and they actually use it a second later so that they avoid the jump, yada yada. You can go back and look at the VOD. But again, very impressive stuff. Now, ROX Esports, back to the focus of the winners for today's first team match. Again, if they can brush up the item mode, I think they become a much more dominant team.
Yeah, ROX, definitely a lot of positive things going for them right now. The initial concern was that 2 KRPL players coming over, and I believe it's going to be Vega and Jung. And of course, they had another rookie player as well coming into the league for the first time, trying to build up his career. They're doing great so far.
Yeah, I mean, very impressive. I think a very interesting roster to follow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue on with Team Match 11 here at the Kart Rider Drift League.